And this is gonna be in English. Hold on, okay? Yes, we have today with us two presenters, which will be in English because they're U.S. citizens. And with us today is Lorena Acosta. She's a U.S. citizen and a teacher of the 5th grade in New Mexico. Her husband was killed recently, and the surviving family members are detained at the camp. And we also have one of the detainees' wives here to discuss this. This happened October 13th. It's still happening in Mexico, and it's still happening in the same area. And with that, I present Lorena Acosta.
My husband was brought into the United States when he was 6 years old. He grew up in Fayetteville, and he went to school in Fayetteville. He was deported in 2006, and we moved to Placitas, so our family would not be separated. We have 3 children, ages 8, 5, and 3. My husband, while in Mexico, he worked as a call center agent, and the last 2 years of his life, he owned his own store. On October 11th of 2013, about 6 to 8 police officers, which we believe were state officers, forcefully entered our home in Placitas Otero in El Valle de Juarez. They forcefully entered our home on the assumption that my husband had a gun in the home. Upon entering, the officers immediately started firing their guns and shot my husband 3 times in the head. Upon hearing the shots that were fired, his brother and nephew, which are currently detained, ran to the house and saw the men ransacking our home, loading up their white truck with our belongings. When the killers saw my brother-in-law and his nephew looking at my husband's dead body on the truck, the officers also threw them on the truck with my husband's lifeless body. We took them to La Brecha de Barriales by Reforma, also in El Valle de Juarez, and proceeded to dig a grave and bury my husband. They returned, upon finishing burying my husband, they returned my brother-in-law and nephew back to the house, where they threatened them and told them to clean up the mess at our home. And if anyone asked about my husband, they were to say that los marcianos se lo llevaron, which means the Martians took him. That Monday, this happened on a Friday, that Monday I tried to get a hold of someone in Juarez to help us investigate the whole incident. They gave me the runaround, and finally they gave me the number to the municipal police in Brajeris. There I spoke to a person. His name was Javier Torres Gonzalez. He presented himself as the commander of that unit. He went immediately to our house and took pictures and told me that he would launch an investigation. About 11 days passed, and all through those 11 days he would tell me that they were looking for my husband's body in the area that they were told. He told me that units from Juarez were working with him. He also told me that they had brought cadaver dogs to help locate the body, but they never found any. All along, he would ask me about my brother-in-law and my nephew, asking me if they had seen who did it. I told him that they did see the faces of the people that did see them. That Friday, which was the 25th of October, I called him to his cell phone, and he didn't answer. I called the commander. I called the office, and someone there told me that he had been picked up by an armed group of people. Around noon, the commander called me and told me that he had been picked up and taken to a place called El Mimbre, which is also in El Valle de Juarez. That they slapped him and asked him what he was looking for. Proceeded to tell them that that all the family wanted was my husband's body. They told him that they would talk to their boss and they would get in contact him the next day. The next day, around 9 p.m., he called me and told me that they had called him and gave him the location of the body. At about 9:30, he calls me again and told me that it was too dark, they couldn't see anything, that he would go back Sunday morning. Sunday morning, they went back and he said he had found the grave, that he couldn't dig it up, that he had to call someone from Juarez to come dig up. They found the body in La Brecha de Barriles near Reforma. At that point in time, I asked him if he knew who the killers were, why he could not arrest them. Since he had seen them, they picked him up, why could he not arrest them? And he told me that his government did not give him the resources to do his job effectively, and the way that it needed to be done. I want justice on who did this. I want justice for my family members that are waiting, that were threatened. They were to go back. We have no protection. The police work in conjunction with whoever is doing this.
Thank you. Again, the two cases, what they have in common is that they discovered mass graves. And the municipal police, the state police, killed one family because they discovered a mass grave. And here we have the federal police involved in a murder. Authorized crime in the discovery of mass graves to conceal the homicidal nature of the government's relationship with organized crime. What I don't think was clear with what you said was the fact that the twin brother of her husband, who's detained, and the uncle were forced to go in the truck and forced to go to the site where they buried them. They could hear the shovels burying their loved ones, and that's where they were tortured and beaten and threatened. And it's a horrendous situation. Also with us today is the wife of Israel, which is Guadalupe Estrella, and she's a nurse in New Mexico as well. She's also a citizen with U.S. citizen children. And her husband, Israel, has been detained for October. And this tale is about the prolonged detention of asylum seekers who are suffering horrendous trauma and the government won't release. She will talk to you about that situation.
Hello. On the night of October 12th, my husband Ishwa suffered a nightmare of his life, him and his uncle. That has impacted our children, our lives, and his family, of course. He and his uncle were tortured, threatened, beaten. They were hit on the head with a butt of a gun, threatened, and they are alive to recount it. Since that occurrence, my husband and his uncle have been detained at the ICE detention center, as if they were the responsible parties. They were victims. They lost their uncle and their brother. They had no ability to fight back. There is no law there, but they have been detained as if they did something wrong. I request that they be released. My husband and his uncle need the opportunity to be able to grieve, to be able to receive counseling for the trauma that they received. Right now, they don't receive any of that. They're trying to be in a jail atmosphere with no counseling, no ability to grieve, support no family support. Our families require justice, peace, and the ability to recover from this.
Thank you. They still haven't identified, they have a body which we believe is not the body, but it's ironic that the police bury the body and then discover the body. I mean, and so, as you can see, the situation is going from bad to worse, and therefore, the Senate resolution is very, very timely, because the situation is worsening, and we are left with the victims in this country, which are now including more and more US citizens. Before I present everybody else, we today begin a campaign for the release. Today we begin a campaign for the release of Israel, her husband, and Efrain Chavez, who have not been released by ICE because they have minor misdemeanor offenses in the past, but they went to school here, their entire family has been here, they graduated from high school here, they're not a threat to the community, but they are being detained for the purposes of discouraging other Mexicans from seeking asylum. It's called prolonged detention, and we've been at this for a long time. And so we ask the community to step forward when the protests, we begin to be present at immigration. We're gonna try to talk to them first, and if not, then we have to move the religious community. The religious community has been silent as to the suffering in Mexico. And if those who preach morality are unable or unwilling or unaware of the nature and scope of the problem, then we are here to educate them as well and to enlist them and their voice in bringing justice to not just family members of citizens, but of Mexicans with or without people, because with or without papers, because with or without papers, they're human beings and children of God who deserve our best efforts. Okay.